Mhm.
Welcome to this special broadcast on I-24 News. I'm Khaled Ben David. It is day 198 of Israel's war against Hamas. And as that battle continues, Israel's ties with its closest and indispensable ally, the United States, are coming under increasing scrutiny and strain. Just the past few days have seen some of the most solid, even unprecedented gestures of American support for the Jewish state. From the U.S. military's role stopping Iran's air attack to a sole U.S. veto at the U.N. against Palestinian statehood recognition, to this week's passage in Congress of an aid bill for Israel. But that's been coupled with vocal criticism from the White House over aspects of the Gaza operation, some personal jibes at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other members of his government, and now a report of unprecedented U.S. sanctions against a specific IDF battalion. Our senior correspondent Bianca Zanini has more in this report.
We are devoted to the defense of Israel.
The U.S. giving with one hand, slapping with the other. Israeli leaders starting the weekend with gratitude and closing it with anger. After being stuck for months due to pressure and criticism from both Democrats and Republicans, the House of Representatives managed to vote on and approve a $95 billion aid package to Israel, Ukraine, and other U.S. allies. The bill includes $17 billion in defense aid to Israel and around $9 billion in humanitarian aid to various regions in need, including Gaza.
There is a lot of misinformation out there about the bill, and I just want to make one point about one issue that has been drawn a lot of attention, and that is, could any of this funding go to Hamas or to terrorist organizations or what have you? And we put safeguards in the legislation to ensure that UNRWA is not funded, the UN agency that included terrorists who participated in the October 7th attack on Israel. We've also have language that prevents it from going, any of the funding going to Hamas or any other bad actors. That's a very important element of oversight. Congress takes the oversight very seriously, and we will continue to keep an eye on every dollar that we are using and investing at this time.
Israeli leaders welcomed the bill, but at the same time, a report on the news outlet Axios came out saying the Biden administration is set to announce sanctions against an IDF unit, specifically the Netzah Yehuda Battalion, an all-male unit for ultra-Orthodox soldiers, for alleged human rights abuses against Palestinians in the West Bank. Several members of the unit have taken part in violent incidents against Palestinians in the West Bank. Others have been convicted of torturing and abusing Palestinian prisoners. The battalion was later moved out of the West Bank to Israel's north. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately responded to the reports on X.
Sanctions must not be imposed on the Israel Defense Forces. At a time when our soldiers are fighting the monsters of terror, the intention to impose a sanction on a unit of the IDF is the height of absurdity and a moral low. The government, headed by me, will act by all means against these moves.
Although there's been no official statement yet from the U.S., Secretary of State Antony Blinken said he had made recommendations based on a panel investigation into the unit and said the public can expect results very soon.
Let's move on to a story in which U.S.-Israel relations also certainly plays a part, and that is last week's airstrike near Iran's secretive Natanz nuclear facility. Now, Israel has not taken credit for the action, although it is widely assumed this was its response to last week's drone and rocket air assault launched from Iran. There are those who charge that the alleged Israeli response was held in check by the U.S. in order not to escalate tensions with Iran. Among those implying that is National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who described the airstrike near Natanz as, well, the Hebrew word for lame. But the exact impact of the strike is still unclear, and emerging evidence suggests it may have been, in fact, far from lame. More in this report from Jeff Abramowitz and Shai Yakir.
Iran dismissed it as, quote, children playing with toys. But new images released Sunday purport to show that damage was caused when Israel allegedly struck deep inside Iran. Satellite video showing that a central part of an S-300 air defense system was hit at an airbase near Isfahan. The system is there to protect Iran's Natanz nuclear site.
We have been very, very clear from here, from the beginning, that we do not want to see this conflict escalate. We continue to consult with our allies and partners, including in the region, obviously, and to reduce further risk of escalation.
Since Friday's supposed attack by the Israel Air Force, details have begun emerging, little by little, about the strike. The New York Times reported on Saturday that, according to its sources, Israel used at least one missile in the attack, launched from a fighter jet far from Iranian airspace.
You saw Israel on the receiving end of an unprecedented attack, but our focus has been on, of course, making sure that Israel can effectively defend itself, but also de-escalating tensions, avoiding conflict.
On Sunday, the Wall Street Journal published that the scale of Tehran's direct attack on Israel, when it launched over 300 UAVs and cruise and ballistic missiles, matched U.S. spy agencies' worst-case scenarios.
Iran right now. Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't.
The Daily quoted U.S. officials as saying that it threatened not only a close U.S. ally, but President Biden's hopes of preventing a 6-month Middle East crisis from widening into an all-out regional war. Officials have estimated that Iran is unlikely to retaliate for Friday's attack, but Tehran has threatened to use massive force if Israel launched another strike.
Now, of course, directives from Iran play a big role in that exchange of ongoing fire in northern Israel between the Iranian proxy Hezbollah and the IDF. Today, that conflict gained another fatality. Reserves IDF Major Dor Zimmel, 27, a deputy commander in the Etzioni Brigade, who died of wounds sustained in the drone strike last week on a community center in the village of Arab al-Aramsha, just south of the Lebanon border, that wounded 18 people. Well, for more, let's go to our correspondent, Zach Anders, who's in northern Israel, near the Lebanese border. And Zach, you were by Arab al-Aramsha. You saw that damage done there. Not surprised, unfortunately, that it claimed a fatality. And, of course, the IDF has to do whatever it can to make sure those kinds of incidents are minimalized.
And that village in particular is remarkable. It's situated so close to the Lebanese border. You can see the homes and the buildings on the Lebanese side. You could wave to someone in that direction. They could wave back. You'd see them just fine. This village in particular is a Bedouin village that, as my photographer explained to me, he's familiar with the area. The old village was relocated off of the most prominent hilltop and moved back a little bit away from the fence. Wonderful people. As we were there, they fed us, and I should stress, the people are still there. The Bedouin villagers, the residents, by and large, are still there, even though most of the other areas are evacuated. Now, this is, in an Arab-Israeli village. Still, I saw dozens of children that were still out on the streets riding their bikes in daylight. And you kind of feel like there is no conflict when you're walking through and meeting and talking to people. But then what happened last Wednesday at about 1:40 in the afternoon obviously underscores the seriousness of this situation and the threat that is posed by Hezbollah being able to get so close to the border. Now, we haven't had official confirmation, but with the sources that I've spoken to, it's widely believed that this drone had to have been launched very close to the border for it to have been able to evade the air defenses, not trigger an alarm. This drone in particular, an Iranian-made drone, was launched after 2 ATGM launches. This area, the community center, is really in the heart of this village. And what's remarkable is knowing that Hezbollah was able to, in that same day, released video feed from the attack. It's in color, it's high definition, and you can see the drone's flight, its path over the village.
Daniel Hagari, the IDF spokesman, starting his briefing.
The holiday of Passover during the holiday of Passover will mark 200 days of the hostages being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. Our main mission remains bringing back, releasing them, freedom, all receiving yet another meaning tonight. If the hostages are listening to us or hearing us, we will fight for you, we will fight over you until you get back home. Dearest families of the hostages, we know these days are unbearable for you, and we promise we will do everything we can do.
That was IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari giving what you might call a Passover or Pesach message. He did mention the activity overnight by the IDF in the West Bank, conducting a big security sweep the past 2 days in the North Shams camp next to the city of Tulkarem. The army saying 14 terrorists killed in clashes with Palestinians there, including the local commander of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, with 15 arrested, 10 soldiers injured with light to moderate wounds. Now, one Israeli civilian was also lightly wounded in the West Bank when he tried to remove a Palestinian flag planted by the roadside in an apparent booby trap as his wife filmed the incident from inside their car. Take a look.
אנחנו להוריד את הסמרטוט המכוער הזה של המדינה שאינה קיימת. גועל נפש. חיים בינינו, לא יאומן. זה פשוט היה פאקינג מוקש או משהו. אני לא מאמינה.
All right. Well, he was lightly injured, so but I think there is a lesson there not to take those kind of actions in the West Bank by yourself. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the IDF carried out multiple airstrikes on Rafah yesterday and today, with Palestinians claiming at least 20 people killed in those attacks. These are some of the heaviest strikes the military has carried out thus far in Rafah, the last and southernmost stronghold of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And Yaakov, is this a prelude or maybe the beginning of the longer-awaited operation into Rafah?
I think we are slowly starting to see the signs that this operation is approaching closer and closer. Just this evening, we received a statement from the IDF spokesperson unit saying that IDF Chief of Staff approved plans for an expansion of IDF activities in the Gaza Strip for continuing the activities. So clearly, the ball is beginning to move. We also had a statement from Defense Minister Gallant recently saying that preparations are underway for the civilian aspect of an operation in Rafah. So at the end of the day, we're seeing the system starting to move. In the eyes of many observers, this phase of the war is long overdue, should have happened a couple of months ago. This is the last bastion of Hamas. It's a critical phase of the war. And I think that now that the United States sees that there is no deal to be had with Hamas, that they reject every offer that's put on the table, including the last and third offer, which was by far the most generous to Hamas's terms, and which Israel agreed to, that also gets met with a resounding no by Yahya Sinwar, because it doesn't lead to an end of the war. It doesn't allow him to survive and take over Gaza. So I think even the United States now sees that there's nobody right now to talk to regarding a ceasefire, and that's going to help take off pressure when it comes to an operation in Rafah.